Mr. President, when you stood here last Thursday and gave your SONA speech, out of everything that you said, there were 12 words that marked dramatic change in government policy, and they were, we all know that government does not create jobs, businesses create jobs. While at face value this may seem obvious, for nearly 3 decades the ANC and national government have been in complete denial about this fact. COSATU and the SACP have been hysterical in their response to this point in your speech, and it's harder to tell what the ANC thinks about it, although I suspect the shock etched on the face of your MPs and their muted applause suggests they don't quite buy into the idea. It's concerning that you now appear to be flip-flopping on this in your newsletter just on Monday. But it's an important ideological shift for government. It signals the understanding that government, ministers and officials need to get out of the way of business doing what it does best, and that is create jobs and grow the economy. There is more evidence of this in your appointment of a new red tape reduction czar in the form of respected businessman Sipho Nkosi. You clearly have run out of patience with Minister Patel, who was supposed to be the red tape champion reduction through his own unit. This can only be seen as a vote of no confidence in him because he absolutely loves red tape. And I see he's not even on the starting lineup for the ANC, which suggests even more bad news for him. Instead of working around him, Mr. President, why can't you just sack him? Mr. President, you spoke about finding a new consensus amongst social partners within 100 days to reignite economic recovery. But that's where you're wrong. You don't need consensus to do what is right. You can't run a country on consensus. You just need to get the job done. Because you'll never find consensus amongst the left and within your own party. Because your views on economic reforms are not aligned to the ANC's. South Africa urgently needs economic growth, and this will only happen if we have well thought out and calibrated policies to do so, of which localization is neither. And talking of consensus, there is much agreement amongst academics, economists, and the opposition that localization will cause more harm than good. It's a fundamental flaw that it is simplistically and naively assumes that if you create trade barriers to certain goods and then designate them for local production, that consumer demand will magically be created. And this is not how economics work, Mr. President, and you know that, which is why I guess you have seemingly toned down your enthusiasm for localization in this year's SONA. South Africa needs to be cost competitive when it comes to manufacturing, so that we can be export-driven economy and take advantage of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. But if we're going to be a protectionist economy, then we're only going to damage our ability to export to Africa and the world. But in order to do this, we need functioning ports. Our ports are so inefficient that in the Durban harbour, they are only moving half the number of containers per hour than they did 2 years ago. However, what was concerning is you did not mention an intervention which is so desperately required in the Port of Cape Town. It is literally sinking under mismanagement and incompetence, which is leading to massive economic losses for the Western Cape. Your urgent intervention is needed. Mr. President, if those of us who understand how to get our economy going and growing can all agree that we need to put job creation at the center of our efforts and that only business can create jobs, then every single thing that government does needs to ensure that this happens. If there's a law that prohibits it, then repeal it. If there is a regulation that seeks to make it more difficult, then bin it. And if there is a minister that seeks to frustrate it, then fire them. You will have our support if you are prepared to follow through with those two crucial words. I thank you.